Hi, I'm Jim Luckett of SailboatsToGo. In this little video, we're going to talk about steering with a steering oar. This is a steering oar. It takes the place of a conventional rudder. It's just like a conventional rudder in this respect: left to go right, right to go left. But look at this: down to lift the blade out of the water. And we're going to see as this video progresses that can be very useful. So here we go. Let's say I'm sailing along, making small steering adjustments, pretty much like a conventional rudder. Except notice one thing. Look at my seating position. I'm not having to sit sideways. I can sit right in the middle of the boat. Got nice back support leaning against this air chamber. When I come about or jibe, I'm not going to have to shift my position. The steering oar is on the side. My arm is on the side. It's a perfect fit. So that's one great advantage of the steering oar, is it's on the side. So anyway, let's see how I would come about using a steering oar, and we'll contrast that a little bit to the conventional rudder. Now with a steering oar, you want to keep the tiller angles within a pretty limited arc. It's not like a conventional rudder where to come about you go out to an extreme position. That would be awkward with the steering oar. I don't want to be going like this and like this, okay? And I don't have to with the steering oar. If you follow these techniques, you won't have to either. So to come about, I just go push and then down, and the blade comes out of the water. With most boats, that's all I've got to do, and I'll have a very quick coming about maneuver executed. With some boats, mostly canoes that have a very strong preference for going straight and a strong aversion to turning, you may need to do a couple of strokes. But since the return stroke is done with the blade out of the water, the handle down, it's very effective in turning the boat. Think about a conventional rudder. The blade's always in the water, so if you try to do repeated strokes, your power stroke, trying to turn the boat that way, is somewhat canceled by the return stroke, which has to be made with the blade in the water. So conventional rudder, trying to take multiple strokes, is kind of a wig-wag motion that's a little bit self-defeating. With a steering oar, you can take multiple strokes and there's no canceling on the return stroke. Push, down, return stroke, blade in the water, doesn't cancel anything. Push, and I can row the stern around. I could do this boat 360 degrees with no forward motion at all, and it would be highly effective with a steering oar. Here we're aboard a wave walk catamaran kayak, which has a real strong tendency to go straight ahead and resist turning, but that's no problem at all with steering oar steering. You see, I'm just taking multiple strokes to execute the coming about maneuver. There is absolutely no chance that I would get stuck partway through the turn, pointed into the wind, and stalled out, because the steering oar has absolute control. Now for kids, I still recommend the center rudder, and we offer a center rudder option on our dinghy sail kits. And of course, the Super Snark and Sunflower car-topping sailboats are exclusively center rudder. So whatever means of steering you prefer or will work best for your sailor, we offer it. Here's another option with steering oars. I like to get two steering oars, have one on each side. No, I don't use them both at the same time. Okay, it's not that we're going to try to steer both oars together. That would be silly. What what we do is, in most cases, we'll park one and use one oar at a time. And so coming about would look like this. Push, park the one that I'm no longer going to be using, and now the sheet comes around and I come over here and I get the other one into service, and now I'm steering on this side. The reason for that is that I like to always use the oar that's on the downwind side, that's on the same side as the sail. Why? Well, you may recall that all sailboats have a tendency to turn upwind. So my sail's on this side now, upwind is that way. So this boat is always wanting to turn upwind, and you're always counteracting that a little bit with your tiller, steering oar or rudder. You're always holding a slight downwind bias on the tiller. It doesn't point straight ahead. You pull it in a little bit in order to steer a straight ahead course. You get a balancing between the boat's tendency to turn upwind and what you're doing with the oar going in the downwind direction, and the compromise between the two is to go straight ahead. Well, that tension that you have to keep on the steering oar is a pulling motion if you're using the one on the downwind side. If I were using the one on the upwind side, that would be a constant pushing tension, and pulling is just more comfortable on your body than pushing. So that's why I like to have two steering oars, and I like to use the one that's on the downwind side at any given moment.
Okay, some on-water shots of the steering oar in action. Here's Erica sailing a Bolt inflatable kayak with our sail kit, one of our favorites. Erica is parking the unused steering oar on the rear deck of the kayak. Since the kayak has a rear deck, that's a very convenient way of parking the unused oar. Here on the Saturn river raft that I'm sailing with two other people, I've got the unused oar parked in a loop of strap that's attached to a D-ring that happens to be on that boat in just the right spot. Now I've taken that in hand. I've got my hands on both steering oars and I'm coming about, and then I park the one that I am not going to use on the new tack. And here we have a Navigator 3400 inflatable dinghy, and I'm not parking the unused oar at all. I just reach out and grab it whenever I'm making a big turn, coming about, or jibing. And this is a very nimble craft indeed with steering oar steering. You can see how I just spin it right around by lifting the two steering oars out of the water momentarily. Just reach out, push down on the handles, blades come up, boat spins around. And here I'm doing the same thing in a Sea Eagle 380X inflatable kayak, one of our best sellers. I'm not parking the unused steering oar in any manner, just let it trail along in the water. It's harmless. I've only got to reach out and control that unused steering oar when I'm coming about or jibing. And now I'm getting ready to come about. I put my hand on the other steering oar. I got both blades out of the water now. I take a stroke with the one in my right hand, and now I'm ready to sail off using that one as my primary steering oar. And the one I was using now trails along in the water harmlessly. Now we've got two boats on the screen. Rob is in the foreground sailing one kayak, and I'm gaining on him, coming up on the left side of him. And I have been allowing my unused steering oar to trail along in the water, but now since I'm climbing up and sitting on the side tube, I decided to park it. And this time I've parked the unused steering oar with the blade resting on the shaft of the oar that I'm using. And you'd think the blade would slide down, but it doesn't, because it hits the oar lock of the steering oar that I'm using, and the blade just nicely rests there, supported by the shaft of the steering oar and prevented from sliding down by the oar lock. And the same thing is going on here. This is a little one-person inflatable kayak, the 300X from Sea Eagle with our sail kit. And you can see the steering oar that I'm not using is going straight across my back, resting on the shaft of the oar that I am using, with the oar lock of that steering oar holding the blade of the one I'm not using from sliding down the shaft any farther. And you can see how the steering oar is working on the boat that's carrying the cameraman. Here we have Rob sailing alone in a nice yellow inflatable kayak, and he has parked the unused steering oar just resting on the rear deck of the kayak. Now we're in a Mariner 3 inflatable dinghy, and I've parked the steering oar I'm not using with its handle in a loose loop of strap on the grab line of the dinghy. This is an option on nearly all dinghies. They'll have this kind of grab line, so you can put a loop of strap there and park your unused steering oar handle in that. Now I'm going to come about, so I get both steering oars in hand, and once the bow has crossed the wind, I give one stroke with the steering oar in my right hand, and that completes the coming about turn. And now, ooh, look at the pirate sail. That's a popular one with a lot of folks. Okay, now the one that I was using, I have parked, while the camera wasn't on me, I've parked it in that loop of strap on the other side. Now, I don't want you to think that we always use two steering oars, or that you have to use two steering oars. You can have just one, and that's what I'm doing in this video with the Saturn River Raft. The steering oar is in my right hand, and I've just come about. And I didn't have to move the oar over to the other side. I could have, but I'm going to leave it on the windward side now, and I'm sailing along just fine with one steering oar.
Now the other great advantage of two steering oars is I can actually propel the boat. If I lose wind, say I go into a windless cove and the trees on the nearby shoreline are blocking my wind in that little area, I can row myself into the beach this way, or row myself out from the beach to get to where the wind is, by using the two oars for propulsion. It's inefficient because this is not a great angle for oars, but it's convenient and it's effective enough for going short distances. If I need to maneuver, row up to a dock, or as I say, get out of a situation where the wind is blocked, this is what I do, and it's very convenient and not something that you could easily do with a conventional rudder. Another great thing about steering oars for the kind of extremely portable sailing setups that we do at SailboatsToGo is the steering oar is really great for fitting into the sail kit bag along with all the other parts. All the other parts, even when they're folded, they tend to be about like this. Long skinny things about 4 feet long, and the steering oar fits right in with that style of item and fits in the sail kit bag, which is a long skinny bag, very nicely. The center rudder can fit in the bag, but it's a little more awkward to get into the bag and a little more bulky, so we like the steering oar for that reason as well. So I think you're going to like the steering oar. Give it a try. It's something different in sailing that you probably haven't experienced before, even if you're an accomplished sailor. I came to it after decades of sailing with a conventional rudder, and I really like it. I think you will too.